is this taking so long? Hey there, thanks for watching. This is a question I've been asking myself lately. So for the past kind of month or so, ever since I started to kind of sit up and take notice again and sort of get back into this channel and the whole debt-free community, I've been sitting around going, why the heck has it taken me this long? 3 years have passed since I started my channel and I am still 15K in debt. And I'm like, okay, whereas some people in that same 3 years have gotten completely out of debt, naming no names, budget girl. So I've been watching her videos lately to kind of like reinvigorate myself. But I can't help but notice that like in the same time, because I think she definitely started before me, but she got rid of 30,000 in 3 years. And I'm like, I still have my little like 15K whatever loan sitting around, and I'm going like, what the heck? Why? So at first glance, it's really, really demoralizing because I think I think now we make about the same. Our incomes are similar. So I'm like, why the heck am I still sitting where I'm sitting? And she's like off doing these really cool things. Like she went to FinCon and she like presented a panel and she's got this huge thriving channel. And I'm like, well, you really have to look at your situation. So I did look at my situation. And I've come up with a few reasons that I can tell myself, like, why, when I see that this is taking so long. So number one, I just haven't been as consistent as she has. She's really, like, uploaded every single, she's stuck with her schedule, and she's been really active in the community, and she's really been very focused. And I just have to admit for myself that I have not been as focused as she has. So there you go. The second thing is, I have to realize, too, that in March of 2016, my family housing situation changed drastically. So essentially half of what I make now is going toward housing, which I'm grateful that I'm able to sort of maintain that housing. And it could have been a very different story if I hadn't had the income to maintain that. But for the past 31 months, I've had to contribute $1,000 of my income toward housing. And that's like now it's like more like a third. But it's still, it's a huge housing difference, and living in the New York, New Jersey metro area is super expensive, and that's sort of number two, housing situation number three, bit of a higher cost of living. So I have to realize that and think that, okay, I paid housing costs for 31 months, and if even half of that had gone to debt, I would have been done. So I have to keep reminding myself that my situation did change drastically. And the fact, for me, like the fact that I'm still here is a lot, and still like committed is something that I try to like give myself credit for. And all this to say as well, like it's not the best thing. Like comparison is like the death of whatever. Comparison's not the greatest, to be comparing yourself with someone else, but it's also good to keep yourself motivated and say like, hey, these are what some amazing people in my sort of self-selected like group of like-minded people are doing. So there's no reason why you can't do it. It gives you hope. It makes you realize that there are a lot of things that are possible. So that's definitely possible to get out of debt, live debt-free, and to be like well on your way toward building $1 million net worth, which, you know, let's face it, it's a huge goal, but it's also like, why the heck not? Like, yeah, of course you can have $1 million net worth. Like I have friends whose parents are like well into that, but it doesn't happen by accident, and that's a huge thing. So those are my top 3 reasons why it's taken me so long, like that I keep telling myself, stay focused, cost of living, and your housing situation changed. These are my 3 reasons. But then I want to come up with like 50 billion reasons why, come on, you can do this. You can do this, well-behaved wallet. You can do this. So that's kind of where I am right now, is like reinvigorating myself and giving myself new motivation and new inspiration to take charge of my financial circumstances and not be knocked down by the circumstances of life. So life might like knock you down, but there's no reason why you can't sort of turn yourself around and get back in it. So to that end, I was thinking about like, it helps me to be able to say, okay, I've done this before. I can do it now because I've done this before. Like I know that I can rely on myself and I have a track record of succeeding. So I try to like give myself examples that I can like of my own life, of things that I've done before to kind of motivate me forward. So I was thinking about that recently, and where I've seen this most recently in the idea of like achieving this huge big goal is when I went to Colorado and I climbed that 14er. And that was like huge for me, and I'm going to keep talking about it because this is the first time that I ever said I want to do this thing purely because it sounds awesome and I want to see if I can do it. So I booked the ticket and I flew out there to meet with some amazing people whose like their whole family is very outdoorsy and like they're all into it's very outdoors fitness, active, healthy lifestyle. So I was really excited to climb with them, but I landed thinking, oh, big deal. Like, so New York, New Jersey is at a 0 degrees above sea level. Like, we're basically at sea level. When you fly to Colorado, as soon as you touch down, you're at 10,000 feet above sea level. So immediately you're kind of dealing with that altitude difference. And I knew that, I'd like read about that, but I didn't really know how it was going to affect me. And everyone had said, like, stay hydrated, make sure you're rested. And I'd done those things. So I was hydrated and I was rested. But it definitely hit me. So when I landed, I'm like, okay. And like, I was trying to be patient, move a little bit slower with myself. I'm thinking, let's climb a mountain. I landed on a Friday and I met them Saturday morning. Gotta climb a mountain in a little bit. Wonder how this is gonna go. I totally thought it would be no big deal. I thought it would just be like a regular normal hike on a Saturday morning. I was wrong. Like, I forget this because it happened in the past, and I'm kind of like obviously it happened in the past. You know, like you tend to forget things that are like huge monumental, you know, undertakings. So I forget how hard it was and how, I don't say unprepared I was, because I'm relatively, I try to stay fit, I try to stay active, but there was like, I could have prepared a lot better. Like, I was not prepared for what this climbing experience would be like, because it was like as soon as we hit the tree line and it was like, oh, okay, you're straight up. Like, there were stairs and it was like, there were stairs and then all of a sudden it was just pure rock. And the last, I would say, so they divided into thirds. There was a tree line, there was like a bit of like a rocky hill section, and then the last full third, I think I want to say it was something like 4 or 5 miles maybe to the top, or maybe it was like 2.5 miles up and then coming back down. 2.5 miles. It must have been more than that. Anyway, the last third was a good chunk, and I was like, when are we going? Like, I was almost done at that point. Like, people were turning around, like full on, like having breakdowns and turning around, and I'm like, okay, and starting to feel it, and it was pretty steep. Even though there were like these, and especially though these like little kids, we're talking like 5th, 6th graders. My friend's 5th grade daughter was climbing with us, and she was smoking us all. I mean, she was like running up that hill, and I'm like huffing and puffing, and I'm getting to the top, and then I see that we have a good another half mile to go, and I'm like, you can't even imagine, like, there's like, you think you've done all you can do, and then you realize that there's still a lot more you have to do. So heading up there, like, I can't even describe the amount of effort. Like, I don't want to say demoralizing, but like, the last third was the hardest chunk. And getting up that mountain, like, I was crying a little bit. Like, I was like physically, like, I can't breathe. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like, I'm starting to get a headache. And like, I had to sit down. Like, she was in great shape, and she was like waiting with me, and finally I was like, go on. Like, you have to like eat special food. You have to, you just have to keep eating, because apparently like the eating helps you acclimate to the atmosphere, to the altitude. But like, I didn't want to eat a thing, but that like dehydrates you, and you have to keep drinking. So I was like trying to take care of myself the best I could. Like, I was sitting, people were asking me if I was okay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, just go on. So she went on, and I'm like trying to make it up, like I was summiting on my own and kind of like at my own pace. But I realized, like, I'm sitting there, and this quote kept going through my head, and the quote is, "The man at the top of the mountain didn't fall there." And I'm like, no kidding. Like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I don't know if I can keep going. So I'm like walking up, and I knew that eventually, if I just kept walking in the right direction, I would get to the top eventually. And it took me like, it felt like forever. It was probably like 20 minutes, like the last, whatever, half mile. But it was definitely the steepest part of the climb. And as I'm like coming up the crest, there were a bunch of people, like there were tons of people. It was actually more crowded than they'd never seen it before. But I'm like heading up, and like, I can't even describe that moment as you're like coming to the top, and there are people around you, and there are people that see that you're like going on it, and they're like, good job, just kind of like giving you a pat and like encouraging you. And as I'm like getting to the top, like, I just start bawling. I'm like, I made it. So harder than I thought it would be. A lot harder than I thought it would be. Took me like a lot longer than I thought it would take me, but I did it in the end. Like, I didn't turn back, I didn't stop, I didn't fall off. Like, this is huge. So I just have to keep reminding myself that it can be done. I can do it. I've done things like this before. I can do this. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that if you're in a similar position, you can find in yourself examples of times when you've done things, done difficult things before, and that you will find it in yourself to keep going, to keep pushing up that summit, and that there will be people there to cheer you on. So thank you again so much for watching. If you haven't, I hope you'll subscribe. Bye.